Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Pattie. What's up?
How are you?
I'm doing good. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening.
Yes, there are. So, I want to talk about the Barbie movie.
I am so glad you want to. I'm so,
Yeah.
so glad.
I am just so shocked at the responses about this movie.
Yes.
And this movie is supposed to be satire, right? Like,
Right,
let's
yes.
not take it too seriously, right? And I thought it was just so much fun. And although it was fun, it really poked fun of society, showing how women really feel in the workplace today, but like in reverse, right? So in Barbie world, women rule the world. And, she goes into the real world and she's looking for like the female boss,
Right.
where, again, being in the male dominated industry, there's never a time where a guy walks in looking for the female boss.
Right.
I mean, I've gone into meetings with my direct reports, right? It would be me and the guy who's my direct report. And the men will be looking at him thinking that he's my boss, until they see our business cards and then
Right.
they realize that, I'm the boss. And I just find just the reaction to the Barbie movie from all of these, just like these men that are so insecure,
So upset.
just so upsetting, right? I mean, do you
Yes.
feel the same way?
Oh, yeah. So before I even saw the movie, I was looking at the reviews from Korea, and Korea's kind of notorious for having a male population that heavily leans conservative, right? Which is pretty standard, but it is like especially so in Korea. And what I saw was in the reviews, it was like all of the women who had voted, the movie was like a 9 out of 10. For the men, it was like a 4 out of 10, right? And I was like, oh gosh, okay, now I want to see the Barbie movie even more than I already wanted to see it.
Right.
But, so that was kind of like, I kind of had in my head this idea of like, okay, so there's something that men don't like about it, clearly. But then when I saw the movie, I was like, okay, this is very satirical. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. And like you said, like, it pokes fun at how things really are, just like in reverse. And like, even with the character of Ken kind of being this, like, he just kind of sits there until Barbie shows up and he only cares about what she wants. And he's only like,
Right.
will she look my way, please? And then like,
Right.
him dealing with this feeling of like, oh, I'm so, like, I'm not important here in this world. Like, it was very poignant, but also like
Yes.
very lighthearted, very satirical.
Right.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is what all the men are upset about. Like, this
Yeah.
is the problem that they had.
Right.
It was just so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, and upset to a point where, Ben Shapiro is throwing Barbies in garbage cans and burning them.
I saw
I mean,
that.
really, dude?
His entire
Seriously?
review, it was like a 43-minute review, which I didn't
Yeah.
watch it, obviously. But I was like, how
what?
did you even have a 43-minute conversation about the Barbie movie like that?
Right.
I don't understand.
Exactly. That's what I didn't understand either. And it's like, who burns Barbies, you Neanderthal? Like, you knuckle dragging Neanderthal. Who does that?
I saw,
know?
I don't know if you've seen Toy Story, but I saw people comparing him to this kid named Sid in the first Toy Story, who is like basically the psychopath, right? Like, he just like rips the heads off of all of the dolls and like attaches them to his
Yes.
action figures, and he's like
Yeah.
trying to like set them on rockets and
Right.
set them on fire. And so someone had put up like the picture of Ben Shapiro burning the Barbie and was like, real life Sid from Toy Story burns Barbies out of anger. I thought that was hilarious.
Yes, that's what it is. And what's really intriguing about this is, and Elon Musk tweeted something about, oh my God, there's so many times you hear patriarchy in the movie. And if you think about it, Ken is the one that says patriarchy the most amount of times in the movie.
Right.
So let's talk about that. But these are the guys that are the poster children for stop being offended. Okay.
Yes.
If there were poster children for, the left, the woke are too offended. We hate cancel culture. People just need to have thicker skin. Can't you take a freaking joke? It's these guys. And yet they're the ones that get offended by a Barbie movie. You know?
Right.
It's like, really? So again, it turns out, and I did a TikTok video on this, that so you don't want people to be offended, but it's okay for you to say stuff that, triggers other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. No,
and you don't want them to be offended.
No, 100%.
The second it triggers you, then it's okay. Then you're going to be offended. What a double standard these guys have.
Truly. And like you said, like they are at the forefront, especially Elon Musk. Like he is so like crass with some of his jokes. I mean, he got in trouble with the FTC because he made a weed joke about Tesla and it like jacked up the stock market. And like, for this dude who's really like, oh, I just like to joke around and have fun or whatever. Like everything's a joke to me. Haha. It's like, oh, but you somehow can't perceive a joke when it's in a movie that, is right in front of you on screen. Like, it was so like, for those who haven't seen the Barbie movie, it's very satirical, and that was very obvious to me as someone watching it. There are studies that have shown that particularly men who do not have empathy for women to begin with, literally have struggle with understanding humor from women. Like they just can't imagine that a woman would make a joke ever for whatever reason, because of course only men can be funny and make jokes. So they don't understand comedy when a woman's doing it, which is why like there's so many men who are like, oh, I hate such and such female comedian. She just like, she'll make jokes about her vagina. And it's like, okay, like how many comedians have made jokes about their genitals? How many male comedians have made jokes about their, so many.
Exactly.
And then like in this context with the Barbie movie, everything is done very satirically. Barbie she goes to the real world and is perceived as like being stupid for even thinking like, why would you walk into a boardroom and ask who the female boss is? Or like, why would you ask where the woman doctors are or whatever? Like it's so over the top. And like the genuine anger that I have seen from so many men over the Barbie movie is just, honestly, it's very vindicating. It's like
it is. It just is. And again, it really shows that we are nowhere close to ending a patriarchal society. We're really nowhere close to that because of the reaction to the Barbie movie. So, I just found that interesting. So I wanted to talk about it. All right. So let's get into our guests today. So our guests today are Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson. Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson are the stars of HGTV's hit show Married to Real Estate. Egypt is the CEO of Indigo Road Home Furnishings and the Atlanta-based Egypt Sherrod Real Estate and Design Group. Mike, aka Egypt Fadelf, is a builder, realtor, and owner of construction and referral company Jackson Draper Renovations, LLC. Together, Egypt and Mike have appeared on and won Season 3 of HGTV's Rock the Block. You may have also heard them on their popular podcast, Marriage and Money Podcast with Egypt and Mike. They are a dynamic couple with unparalleled expertise and a wealth of knowledge on how to build a home, both literally and figuratively. Hi, Egypt and Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hi. How are you, What's up, Pattie?
I am so excited to have you guys on, and because you are the first couple that we've ever had on the show.
Hey.
And the reason that this is so exciting because I love to get a man's perspective and a man that has something going on for himself, right? Not just some, broke ass dude that I talk about with a successful woman, a successful woman and a successful man. And I think it's going to be so interesting for us to see how you guys have figured out your finances, because not only are you a couple, right? Not only are you married, you're raising a family, but you guys also work together. Yes. Which is crazy because I know if I work with my significant other, we wouldn't be together. I mean, I need some time away from him, right? So those are a few of the things that I want to get into. But before we get into that, I just want to clear up one thing. Ketchup and barbecue sauce go in the refrigerator.
I thought this was going to be a good interview. You can just do the interview with her.
You and I?
Mike.
Thank you.
I don't know what you're... Really? You're just going to leave it out after you open it?
What
What is that?
That debate. Even Heinz said it, so I don't know.
They have to.
Thank
They
you.
legally have to say it. They legally have to say it.
You're gonna get all sick having ketchup barbecue sauce sitting out there in the
You
sun.
started this interview saying we look great, right? I have been doing ketchup since I was a kid. I am doing fine. We're good here. Okay?
All right, now that we've cleared that up, all right. So let's get into it. So, did you guys meet on set? I think everyone would be interested to know just how you guys met.
No, we didn't meet on set.
No, there's.
Okay, so how did you meet?
You want the short version or the long version? Because
Let's do the short version.
Because we don't have enough time for the movie version.
Short version. Ultimately, after several rounds of meeting in our previous career, I was a radio personality. He was a music turntable DJ.
That's right, you're a DJ.
Yeah, but we both had something else going on. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know I was also, a real estate investor and agent, and I didn't know that he was in construction. We just knew each other from the music business. And what's the rule?
Right.
What's the rule?
You never where you work, right? Where you eat. Yes.
So even though I knew him, I thought he was fine. It wasn't even a thought for me. But
right.
I was flipping a house in Newark, New Jersey, and got rid of my original team. I called my then mentor, and he referred his team, and I still didn't realize it was the same person because who's Mike Jackson? I knew DJ.
Right, he's a DJ. Right?
Who is this?
The guy that spins? That dude?
So he showed up with his team, and I was like, I needed a contractor, not a DJ. So it kind of, it grew from there. We worked together a few times, and I developed a big crush on him, and I didn't know he was crushing on me big as well. But we went on our first date, and that's it. It was like the forever date.
Forever.
We've been together forever since the first date.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. I love to hear that. Yeah, the surprise of him showing up. You're like, what's the DJ doing here? Right? I would have been thinking the same thing. And isn't it a great
What?
Right. Yeah, and isn't it a great surprise when the person that you have a crush on ends up being more than what you had anticipated, right?
There was more.
Because I remember
I when I saw her, I knew that was my wife. Literally.
Really?
Yeah.
And how did you know?
It's not something you can actually give words to. It was just a feeling of whoever that is, I need her in my life forever. Right?
That is
It's just an
amazing.
emotion and feeling. Can't describe it.
That is amazing. And, when I met my significant other, he surprised me too, because when I first started speaking with him, he said that he was a musician, right? And I'm like, I'm not trying to date no broke musician working at the dive bar, right? I was like, nope, that is not it. And then I asked one of my best friends who's a music producer, I'm like, hey, do you know this dude? He's like, yeah, he's one of the best guitarists in the country. I was like, oh, he's that type of musician. So that kind of changed. So it's always so wonderful when someone brings more to the table than you had anticipated. So I love to hear that story. And so now that you guys, are working together, right? And you have a family together, from the beginning, did you ever discuss how you were going to do your finances, how the finances were going to work in the relationship? Is that a discussion that you ever had?
You want to answer that?
Cool. I saw you up there revving up this answer. Go ahead. Go ahead. If you want to. Just know there's several accounts.
So, right. So here's the thing, Pattie. We have a podcast too, the Marriage and Money podcast. The debate not only between Mike and I, but also for those who listen to our podcast, because they sit on opposite sides of the fence. When Mike and I first got together, I was already in my mid 30s, and actually, I met you when we first started dating. I was like 29, but during that time, I had already amassed wealth, and he was coming out of a previous marriage. And so for those who know what that's like, you got to rebuild yourself entirely. So for me to feel safe in the relationship, we definitely had to keep finances separate. But then he rebuilt everything: his credit, his finances, his business. He rebuilt it all. And now we've been together 18 years. And so the picture is that he trusts me so much with our financial health as a family. He comes to the table, but I'm there at the table all the time. And
Right.
so in that area, I have a strength that he trusts. So I handle the finances, but it's still a joint effort. Whereas he handles a lot of things that I can't and don't want to do. So
Okay. Okay, so like in the beginning, Mike, did you feel weird about keeping the finances separate because she was coming with wealth already? Did that emasculate you in any way? How did you feel about
good
that?
question.
No, not at all. I'm a man that is confident in himself, in where I was in the moment in that time in life. Honestly, before we had gotten together, I had already told myself that until I am financially stable, until I am where I want to be, I'm not going to be dating anyone. It just so happened to be that I could not help falling in love with her, right? So
I don't blame
I
you.
laid it all out on the table. I said, here's my financials. Here's what I look like right now. It's either you take
Right.
it or leave it. And 18 years later, we're doing amazing, right? So as far as the way I felt, I did feel like I don't know how this is going to go. Once I laid out, either going to accept it or walk away. But I didn't feel emasculated at all. No.
Great. And that tells me that you're so confident within yourself and your abilities, right? Because a lot of men would be like, "Oh, well, why aren't you paying for me? And why do we have to keep things separate? And, it's all we're putting our lives together, so we have to share everything." And go
Well,
ahead,
let me
Egypt.
throw something out there. You know, here it is. I was single and ready to mingle in the city, like a stiletto hustler in New York City.
Right.
To me, I was doing quite well for myself and doing all the things you should do to be financially fit. And I had a long list of stuff I expected from a man. Um,
Sure.
he definitely came in a package unexpected. Like when I would pray for what my husband looked like, it looked different. It had a big red bow. He didn't
Yep.
necessarily have a child already, or wasn't coming out of a relationship. However, in getting to know him as a person, and I think us working together first before we started dating, really helped me understand. Like he was this amazing, loving, caring father. He cherished family. He was respectful. He was not a scrub by any means.
Right.
Just somebody who had to take some steps back in life because of a divorce and structure everything and then move forward. We didn't get married until 6 years later when that picture looked good.
Oh, I see. Okay. Great.
But what I loved about him is his honesty, because there's a lot of guys who they would sit across from a woman and not say, "Listen, this is what my credit is. This is what my bank
Yes.
account looks like. These are my obligations.
Right.
I respect you, and that's why I'm telling you. And if you don't want to move forward romantically, that's fine. We can be friends. But I want to be honest. Then you can't say that I lied about anything. That I respected."
Right.
Absolutely. You always have to respect the truth, right? Because then that person gives you options. There are so many men that I've gone out with that are all show and no go, especially in my culture. I'm Persian, and it's all about what you're showing off, right? So I'd be sitting across from a dude that is driving a Lamborghini, no joke, right? Living in the best apartment, living in the penthouse, taking me to $600 dinners, right? But at the end of the day has $300,000 in credit card debt and has no idea, where his next meal is coming from, just living paycheck to paycheck, trying to impress people.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I learned there was this guy that I kind of went down far with, as far as like trying to go down the path of relationship. And someone was like, "Girl, he is broke." I'm like, "What are you talking about? He's got a Lamborghini." And that is when I learned that you got to ask these questions, right? It's not just about the show. And that's when I really started to appreciate honesty. And so when Mike was honest with you, did you feel taken back a little bit, Egypt? How did you feel about that? What was your thought process when he was honest about his financial state?
Well, it was shocking to me in a refreshing way, because I wasn't used to honesty. I was used
Right.
to much of what you're saying, especially having been in sort of a high profile career, I was around a lot of flashiness. It never really impressed me. I was looking more for substance. And
Right.
the reason we ever went on a date was because he just had, outside of finances, right? He had everything else on my list. And I was like, God, you play a lot of jokes. But there was something definitely very special about him, like as a spirit, as a human, that made me want to tread lightly. In other words, okay, you know, let's see what this is. Maybe we're just going to be friends with benefits. You know?
Right. You're like, because he's fine. Let's do something.
Let's do that. But I
Yeah.
think when we're out here in the world searching for a partner, of course we have lists and standards. You should always have standards.
Yes.
But there comes a point where spirit meets spirit, and recognize somebody who's real that you can build with. And that's what I is
Right.
he had amazing skills, incredible work ethic. He had a history of being financially fit. You know, he had a history of being an accountable partner, you know, to someone else even at that point. So, and everyone I knew spoke so highly of his character. Now that to me meant a lot. Like, you know what? Let's just see where it goes. I'm gonna move slow. Let's just see where it goes, and I'll know if a red flag comes up. But there were never any red flags, and he always added to my life in
Oh, that's so important.
every way. So it was really just about, let me be patient with him and watch him rebuild. That didn't mean I financed the rebuild in any way, but you know, things.
That was going to be my next question.
No, it was more so things I knew about where he should be putting his money and how he should, create a new portfolio and where he should start, and setting up a trust now for himself and his family and his daughter, even if that didn't include me. You know, the things he should do now so that he can set a firm foundation. And what was really amazing, and I'm doing all the talking, but you can talk. But what was amazing is we put together a 12-month plan for him to fix his credit, and he committed to the plan, saw it through. And what was funny, Patty, is at one point his credit became higher than mine.
Well, I guess you need to get on that plan.
And what was interesting, and I think a true test of our relationship, during that time that we were just dating, I got fired from my job. So even though everything was looking fantastic, I walked into work one day and got a pink slip. Even though I was number one in my time slot on the radio, I got a pink slip. And all of a sudden I was unemployed, and he held me down. Really held me down. So then it started to really balance the financial dynamic of the relationship, and it became a together thing from that point on.
And when you say held you down, does that mean financially as well, or emotionally, or both?
All of the above. I mean, have you ever been fired?
Oh, girl, yes. Yes, I have been fired. And shocked, too, because I was number one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was, you could never even imagine that you would walk in, especially when you're doing your job, you're getting your ratings, number one, things are going, you're like, what? I didn't what?
Yes.
Right.
I was in shock. I needed emotional support. I was in prayer. I needed spiritual support. He would pray with me. Financial support, because you try surviving on unemployment in New York City when you own properties and stuff. I had to literally reinvent myself. So during that time, he would just bring the check. It was, and we had moved in together, and he held me down. He did. And then
that is amazing.
Yeah, when I got on my feet, it was just we got on our feet. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And were you married at this point, or not yet?
No.
Okay. And what's beautiful about this is that this is a sign of a true partnership, because you helped him get back on his feet, helped him get his credit together, helped him put his wealth together, right? And then when you needed him, he stepped up. And for me, it's never about my significant other making as much money as me, because that can fluctuate, right? I can make more money now and he can make more money. It's about, I say, you don't have to ever meet me dollar for dollar, but you have to meet me hustle for hustle.
Bam.
And that is really important because as long as you are hustling and I'm hustling, we can balance each other out, right? And there are times where I may need my significant other to come and help me out.
Right.
You know, if I lose my job or God forbid something like that happen, I'm going to need that help. So I am not anti people helping each other out financially. And I think that's the misconception because I say you need to be financially independent. What I am saying is each person needs to be able to stand on their own 2 feet if something happens in the relationship.
Correct.
Right. So if, for example, I know Mike had insinuated in the beginning that there have been many accounts. Do you guys have separate accounts of your own that you have money there that you can spend, you know, that for yourselves?
We do. We have our business accounts for the business.
Okay.
We have a main account where takes care of the household, the bills,
Our
you know,
joints,
the nanny care, etc. And then we have our separate accounts. It's not about, you know, it's secretive. We know each other's accounts. If for something, hey, can I see it? Yeah, by all means. But I'm going to do whatever I want with my account without it, you know, affecting the household. And that's what we have several accounts to make sure everyone is satisfied.
And that's what I was saying earlier. I started to say we have our podcast and there's often some argument about this because there are guests that we've had on and listeners who believe that if you're married and you intend to stay married, then everything should have everybody's name on it. It should all be joint. And Mike and I strongly disagreed with that.
Absolutely.
One couple came on and said, you know, it's ours. Everything is ours. And we feel like if we separate it, then it's almost like we're predicating a divorce or that we're planning for a divorce instead of choosing to be married forever. Therefore, nothing needs to be separated. And our side of that was, I don't see being with anybody but him. Like, to me, this is my forever. Divorce is not an option for us either. However, still maintaining some level of independence and feeling like, yes, we're planning together and we have our common goals, but I'm still over here doing my businesses the way I want. He's still doing his businesses the way he wants. If I want to shop till I drop, I don't have to explain it to nobody because I did not.
Amen.
I put my part in our account, didn't I? So over here, I'm going to do what I want. And the same thing. So that's just our works for us, you know?
No, absolutely. And I think that comes from the archaic notion. I mean, the only reason that accounts were joint is because when a man and woman got married, the woman was seen as the property of the man. She couldn't even work. She couldn't have her own bank account. That is why they had a joint bank account, because she couldn't even happen to have a separate one and had no finances of her own. So that's where it comes from. And people try to say that it's a romantic notion, that's not what it was based on. People say they romanticize it, saying, well, we've become one. We're one person. Well, no, you're not. Because you don't have the same social security number, you don't have the same driver's license. One person can leave the other person at any given time. And the healthiest relationships are the ones, I mean, science and studies show each person has a certain level of independence. When you're codependent in every single aspect of your life, those are the most insecure relationships. And those are the relationships that just don't last. And it's just proven scientifically. And also, for you to have some level of independence, it shows that you are with the other person because you want to be, not because you have to be.
You have to be. And you nailed that. That was something that we said too. I know every single day that he wakes up or I wake up, we choose each other because he wants to go, you free to go. You got your own everything, properties, car, money, all of that. I have the same. Then we have some together. So it's very minimal what we'd have to worry about dividing. But every day that we wake up and say, good morning, babe, I know he loves me. He chooses me. There's no reason for me to go through his telephone. There's no reason for me to ask questions. Where you going to be? Who you going to be with? Because you're here.
Right. Exactly.
So.
Right. And a lot of people have, since they don't have financial security in the relationship and they're afraid that, oh my gosh, if this ends, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's when they start feeling insecure about other things. That's when they start going through the phones. That's why, their mind goes other places because they have no means of supporting themselves. But when you're independent, then you don't have to worry, because I'm like, okay, well, if I find out that, you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to do, I'm good.
Right.
I may be heartbroken, but my lifestyle is not going to change.
Right.
So that fear of that is not within me. And I think that really helps the relationship.
Definitely.
So I want to ask you guys another thing. What are your thoughts about prenups? Because I get so many questions on, well, if you get a prenup, that's just saying, well, we're going to get a divorce. And again, that's just predicating a divorce. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have one.
Amen.
Yeah, we have one. She actually approached me with it, not like, you better sign this or it's not going to work. The same way you stated, how do you feel about it? And when she came to me about it, I was like, I don't have any issues with it because I'm not going anywhere, right? And I'm not with you
Right.
for your finances. There was a point, I remember, I was just randomly at the table and she comes to me, listen, if I ever lost this, this high class job or the radio position, would you still be with me or are you for me? I'm like, I don't care about any of that, So fast forward, when that came up as far as the prenup, I said, where do you need me to sign? There's no big deal. I could care less.
He signed in 60 seconds. Then I felt
My man.
I felt guilty though. Afterward, like, did I break something? Because, but so then I went back at, a few days later and I said, when I asked you to sign the prenup, did that upset you? Like, do you feel any kind of way? Are there any residual feelings? He was like, no. He said, if it's going to give you peace and it's going to make you feel like, you know what, I don't have anything to worry about in this marriage, or if if we divorce or anything like that, then I'll sign it. He says, there's nothing that you have that I want except for you. So I was like, okay, I don't even know what a prenup is. Oh, I do know where it is. But yeah, if it works for you. But I do believe that, if we were 21 getting married and if he didn't have children prior to me, then that means that everything we're we're kind of building together. But I wasn't starting from scratch. I definitely had properties and had businesses at that time. I didn't intend to marry him to divorce him, but certainly wanted to know if, God forbid, anything happened, that I wasn't going to be starting from scratch. So we understood that as someone who had to, after a divorce, take several steps backwards. He understood that I didn't want to be in that position ever.
Right. And you know what? I think that we need to be mature about this, right? If you're coming in with wealth and you have children, you need to protect your children and you need to protect yourself. And it's not anything about the other person. It's not like saying, yeah, we're going to get a divorce. It's just about protection. And you're also protecting them. Everyone's just protecting their assets. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
But then it leveled the playing field, right? Because it allowed for me to close a chapter. And I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but it allowed for me to close my single chapter. Meaning, yeah, I did good. I did that. I got all of that. Okay, now let's put an exclamation point on it and tuck it into a drawer. What are we going to do? What's our goals together as a family? What do you want to do? He wanted to start his own construction company. He wanted to open a juice bar, and he wanted to do all those things. Okay, well, this is what I want to do. Let's find the cohesion so that we together. Then we built 4 separate businesses, 2 of which he works on, 2 of which I work on. And then we're like, what are we doing? We really need to build one-stop shop, one business. And that is what we started a few years ago. And that's truly where our success came in. And Pattie, that's where a lot of the additional wealth came. But I just feel like there's no blueprint. There's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as it works for you as a couple. You have to define your rules.
Amazing. So before I let you guys go, is there anything else that you think couples and relationships should know about finances that we didn't cover?
About finances. Yes. Don't I would say I not even just relationship, just in general. You know, we on our podcast, we recently had a guest that was talking about wills, trust, you know, Roth IRAs, and so much more. I think
GMIBs.
it's knowing where to put your money, right? Not just, you know, "Oh, I have my 401k and we're great," because a lot of folks think just save, 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 but that money's not doing anything for you, right? The
Exactly.
investment, learn the investment field, learn to know where to put your money, get into the Bitcoin situation, cryptocurrency, understanding it. It's not just about having the money, but understanding what to do with the money.
Yeah, I'd say, and it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep.
Yeah.
And that is what a
Yes.
lot of people miss. And they'll say, oh, well, I earned $1 million this year. How much did you pay in taxes? Well,
Exactly.
then you're not
Exactly.
doing proper tax planning. You need to really build a team around you so that you keep more of your money. So that's a big one.
Right.
I'd also say diversification. I think that's what you were getting at, Mike. But then it's legacy building,
Yes.
asset protection. When I say legacy building is, I even look across the board at a lot of actors. For instance, what's the guy that played Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, when he passed away? When he passed away, you know, the government pretty much got the bulk of his money. He had no will, he had no trust. He had elderly parents
Oh,
and he had a wife. And whatever was left went to the wife, and the parents, you know, weren't taken care of until they
wow.
decided to, you know, but had that been spelled out, had we just taken a little bit of time, and I think
Right?
people assume, well, I don't have that. I don't have an estate. How do I do estate planning? Or I don't have a lot of money. I don't need to. Who cares if the government takes my $50,000 or, you know, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, everyone, specifically if you have children or parents or family members that rely on you, everyone needs to do some level of estate planning, which involves a will and a trust. It involves medical directives. You need to invest in that. And right now there are programs online where you don't have to pay $10,000 to an attorney to do it for you. You can do it online on a program for a few $100 and go get it notarized. But do the work. Otherwise, why work now?
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's what people don't understand, that there's so many aspects to this, so many aspects to finances and some people just take their money and put it in the savings account. And that's it. And they don't let their money work for them.
Right.
And that's what's really important is it's not just earning it. It's what are you doing with it and how are you growing your money?
Right.
And go ahead, Egypt. You were going to say.
I'm always going to say something. So
No, go ahead. This is you're the guest, girl. I want to hear from you.
sometimes he has to hit me under the table of like, because somebody wise. But what I was going to say is, because this is a question I've been asked recently. I was at the AKA conference and someone said, you know, should I pay my house off? Do you think I should pay my house off? I said, well, when did you purchase your house? And she purchased it about 7 years ago. I said, so interesting. Did you get anywhere in a 2 or 3% interest rate? She said, yes. And I said, you can't get that interest rate now. The interest
That is free money.
it's in the sevens, right? So by the time that you write off your property interest and all of that, you're paying even less of the interest rate.
Right.
So why put more money to pay that off versus put it in a fund that's going to get you anywhere from 6 to 12% or more, right? Invest, guys. Don't pay it off. But also, the thing to know is right now there are a lot of deed fraud situations going on, and they're specifically preying on the elderly people who have paid their homes off and they're living on fixed incomes. Do you know what deed fraud is?
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know and didn't even know it was.
Go ahead. Please explain
They
that.
didn't know. So you pay your house off, right? Someone literally goes in and fakes a deed, registers it, looks like there was a transaction where you sold your house to them, and no one's the wiser until one day when you go to sell your house and you don't own it. Or the way it's really been working and why they've been preying on the elderly is because when they pass away, they're gone and their children go to sell their house and say, when did mom and dad sell their house to this person? And there's no one there to say that it didn't happen. So I'm telling people, do not pay your house off. Keep a small mortgage, even if you want to pay it off. Keep a small mortgage, which means a third party has interest in it, and instead invest the difference.
Absolutely. And this mindset of paying my house off and all. This is just the mindset. It's a scarcity mindset. Okay, I always say that. And I come from a very underserved background. So I didn't learn about finances. I didn't, it was like, oh, all debt is bad. You want to pay off your house, pay off that house. You want to pay. And I have my mortgage is 2.8%. This is basically free money. Yes. Instead of paying off this house. Yeah, I could do so much more with the money that I could earn 5 to 7%. I could just put it in the stock market and make 10 to 12%, right? And we're not taught these things, especially again for me coming from an underserved background. We're not taught these things, and that's why I have my TikTok channel, and that's why I want to teach people about finances, because nobody taught me this stuff. I got into debt. Everything that I talk about are the mistakes that I have made. So I love the fact that people like you guys are out there teaching finances and talking about finances, and your podcast is so great. You guys really it is. I've listened to it, and you guys do such a great job talking about finances and how to grow your money. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you guys coming on the podcast and being just the power couple that everyone strives to be, mentally, emotionally, financially. You're just like the goal. You really are. You're the goal for all couples.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You are. And, at the end of the day, Mike, you overachieved. At the end of the day, you overachieved, because she's pretty amazing. I just had to say that.
It's all right.
I'm
all
grateful.
right.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, no, he's pretty amazing. So thank you for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you guys. And listeners, thank you for listening. I hope that you guys got as much as I did listening to these two amazing people. Please make sure to follow and rate the podcast. And until next time, always plan.